So again, hello everybody. Today our topic is Gung Fu Kun, and our special guest today is my Kung Fu brother Viktor. Yeah, the one who raises sets right now. Maybe you can introduce yourself one more time for the ones that came up later.
Yeah, I have met some of you in Germany. Well, I met Frank for the first time. It was maybe, I think I saw Frank the first time in 2009.
Yes.
And we met, it was already 10 years. And we met in Hong Kong, and I lived there at the time. I lived in Hong Kong between 2010 to 2013. And at the time, I started training with Sifu, Raymond Wong, Wong Chung Man. And also, yeah, I have been learning Chinese as well for a couple of years. So, and the reason why I wanted to learn Chinese was to actually know the system of Hung Kuen better. You know, why does this technique, why is it called a certain way? And why is this technique called in a certain way? And so that resulted in the book that I translated a couple of, yeah, just as it happens, you know, like a TV chef. I just have it here as well. But I translated it a couple of years ago as well, and I mean, it was not anything professional like that. I think Frank managed to get some copies, and I have just one copy on my own. But I plan on doing like a second edition. Anyway, afterwards, after 2013 until now, I have been living in Stockholm, in Sweden, and yeah, I've been going to Hanover and training with Frank and Sifu and some of you guys a couple of times. I think last time was actually 2018 because of the pandemic and all of that, you know. So yeah, that is a little bit about me. Good to see you all.
Yeah, and you will also know Victor and I. We have this famous rooftop 8-diagram pole partner on the rooftop. That was a crazy experience because we could actually look into a Wing Chun school, yeah, from the rooftop. And this guy has a lot of videos in YouTube, and it's so funny. Sergio,
yeah,
something.
Yeah, exactly. It's an Italian guy who was teaching Wing Chun in Hong Kong, and he had his school quite opposite, because I lived at the like a 6th floor, and then we had a rooftop at the house just above the apartment, and then you could see straight into his Wing Chun school. So sometimes I would be up there sweating, and then some of his guys were like, "Oh, look, oh, hello," you know, and I would wave back, and like understanding, like, okay, you practice Kung Fu. That's why I also try to do. So that is very good.
Yeah, that was great. So Gung Fu Kun, most of you already know it, and some are learning it, and some not yet, which is okay. We will get there too. So you can learn a lot about it already today, and I think the best way to start with Gung Fu Kun is the literal translation. Maybe Victor can explain this better than me, since he speaks fluent Chinese.
All right. Well, the Gung Fu Kun is, well, I decided to translate it into taming the tiger, but then some people would translate it into taming the tiger in an, and then, you know, the capital I, like the capital I pattern. And what it means by that is actually the first, if you see the first character there on the top, looks like a H that you have turned laying down, so to say.
Inside, yeah.
And that is the what is meant by the shape is that the first part that you go through goes in that direction. So if you imagine you do the breathing part, and then you do the salute, and then you go down, and then you start with the stance work. So that is the sort of bottom stroke, you might say, of that character. And then you move forward with the you know, this part, and then you have a Qingji, and then you do a Sankou Qingji, and then you do a Guachuan, and so on. That is the middle part. And then you turn around, you do the big Jan, you know, the elbow. I will say some of these Chinese names for the techniques, so if you don't know them, maybe you can just see what I'm trying to do in the webcam there. Anyway, so that is the name of it. And then sometimes you can also divide it into two parts. So you have Gungji as one part, and you have Fuk-Fu-Kun, which is the second part of the set. So when you have moved in this shape of the lying down H character, well, it's actually pronounced Gung, then you have Fuk-Fu-Kun, and that means to subdue or to tame the tiger.
Yes. So taming the tiger in an I shape, that's like the widely spread name. So taming the tiger, Fuk-Fu, this is, I think, comes from it's like a Buddhist saying, right? From the if I'm remembering it right, there are some paintings with Fuk-Fu, with the signs of Fuk-Fu, and I think the Fuk-Fu, the taming the tiger, is more like a metaphor, right? Taming the tiger. So it's not literally you need to tame a tiger, but the tiger is probably yourself, or it's something that you have to master or get done, you know, or over, you know. Since Gungji Fuk-Fu-Kun is a very long set from beginning to end, and you have to practice it a lot of time, and you have to do it from beginning to end with focus and power. This could be also meaning to tame a tiger, because it's not easy to do. You know, it's a hard set, especially doing it with force or power, right? So, but the Fuk-Fu is also, you literally can use it for anything that you have to master, or some burden you have to carry, and but still carry on with yourself, with your life and stuff like that, you know. So just because I think that's also maybe what you can explain better, that in Chinese Kung Fu, a lot of times there are poems, like there's more like poems being used to describe a technique or the character of a technique.
Yeah, and also a connection to sometimes Buddhism, right? Within Buddhism, you have this, it's called like Arhat. I can spell it out in the chat here because I don't know the real, you know, pronunciation of that, but I think that they are supposed to be disciples of Buddhism, studying the texts and so on, and sometimes the techniques that we do in the sets are called like the Arhat is hanging the corpse to dry, for example. In Fu Hok we have this technique, exactly that one, and so on. And I think that this the Fuk-Fu is also one of these Arhats that you have the picture that Frank was talking about. There's a monk, I think he's sitting and he's trying to hit a tiger, to subdue it. So that definitely happens. But something that I also wanted to add is that this is the absolute, I mean, I think that these days your first set, the first thing that you learn would be BoFaat. But then in the olden days, you could say that this Kunzi Fukfukin was the absolute first thing. That is like the core of the whole Hung Kuen system. So probably it is also the oldest set that we have. So all the sets that we know of now, for example, Fu Hok, you have Sapying, you have different variations, and they all come from Gungji.
That's true. That's I think I'm not too sure if this is all true, but you know, a lot of people saying that the Fukfu part is the oldest part in Hungar. So the second half is supposed to be a Shaolin set, and a lot of other styles actually have a Fukfu Kuen set too. Like I think even some branch of Choi Lei Fat have a Fukfu Kuen set, which is also like our set, like 80% or 85% the same, just more Choi Lei Fat-ish, you know. Yeah, and this is very widespread set in southern China. But for me, it feels like this is more modern than the Gungji part. Gungji part is more on bridges, the stances, the foundation, and doesn't have all these long or wide moves like Fukfu Kuen has, like power choice and you know swinging techniques. And so I'm not too sure if this is really true, if this is like the oldest set. Any questions so far?
Well, I wanted to ask about the history, but you answered it already. But I just want to know, like, how old is it approximately, and are there some interesting legends about it, like how it started or something?
Okay, that was a difficult question, but something that is difficult to actually establish is the truth or the credibility when we're talking about Chinese history, because the story says that this set comes from the southern Shaolin temple, right? And we know that there's a northern Shaolin temple, and it's in Henan province, right? And depending on who you're listening to and what your sources are, some monks traveled to the south, and they apparently opened up a southern Shaolin temple. But then you would think that the Shaolin style that traveled from the north to the south would still have some northern influences, right? That you would, for example, have things on a straight line, and you would have a lot of more kicking techniques. However, the southern Shaolin, as we know, does not contain many kicks, because you have this saying that Nan Quan Bei Tui, right? So this is Mandarin. It means that in the south you use your fist, and in the north, I'm not going to pull up my feet, but they use the feet. Okay. So some say that there are 3 southern Shaolin temples. I think you have one in Putian, one in Quanzhou, and then you have one more. However, it's quite strange that you have 3 Shaolin temples, right? So the truth, whether or not there has been a southern Shaolin temple, can be a topic for another Zoom meeting, I think. But let's just say that according to the original manuscript for this book, there it says that the set comes from the southern Shaolin temple, and it has been sort of used, or it has been used in battles between the Shaolin monks from the southern Shaolin temple, and I didn't say that this is from the Fujian province, right? So it is on the east coast, or like one of the easternmost provinces in China, whereas Guangdong, where our Hung Kuen comes from, is to the east of this province. Anyway, it is said that the monks, they fought against Japanese pirates. I think it's the actual word in the book. And somehow it is in the book. So then you could guess that they used some of their techniques when they were fighting the pirates. Right, so then you have another layer of this. And now I'm getting a little bit off track, Beata, so I'm sorry for that, but I think it might be interesting still.
Oh, it's okay, yeah. Okay, please continue, sorry.
Yeah, it might be a theory that some, you could say, generals, okay, because China has been a large country for a long time. And to maintain a large country, you need a large army as well. And then it might have been like this, that one, let's say soldiers, right? They have learned some martial arts because they need to have skills in handling swords, spears, and so on. And then somehow they, they had a fallout with someone, and they were not very liked anymore. And in ancient Chinese time, all right, so if someone who knows more than me, then they can sort of interrupt me and say that I'm wrong. But in those times, when you were when you wanted to be banned from other people, you were sent south. So that is like a saying that you were sent south, and then you would sort of, disappear because, it was more or less lawless country in the south in very ancient times. So anyway, if you wanted to get away from people who you had a fallout with, then you could take refuge in a temple, because Buddhist temples have been around in China for quite a while. And then you went into the temple, you shaved off your head, and then you said that, okay, I have a Buddhist name now, and my Buddhist name is, well, let's say that just for the sake of it, it's Ji Xin Xing Si, okay? So that is my Buddhist name. And then, of course, if someone says, comes to the temple and say, well, I'm looking for this person, he is quite terrible and he's wanted, and the emperor wants him dead, okay? And then in the temple, they would say, no, that person is not here because we only have the monks here, you know. But at the same time, this monk, let's call him Ji Xin Xing Si, he was also a general. So he's quite proficient in martial arts. And he started to teach the other monks. And so you have a southern Shaolin temple. Anyway, it might be that this is quite, as I said, it's quite difficult to give a straight answer to this question, because there are many theories about what is true and what is not true. And at a certain point, it is also quite difficult to say what is true and what is fiction. But I would say that what makes sense is usually what I would go for, and I think that the soldier version is quite reasonable in my ears, instead of the story of Shaolin monks from the north traveling to the south. But I mean, it's not impossible. I don't know, Frank, what do you say about this? Where is your stance?
Same. There's no real proof that there has been a southern Shaolin temple, but it's probably just a name. There were temples, there were many temples, there are many temples, and it's probably not, the name was not Shaolin, but maybe it has been added to the story or to something later on, because Shaolin is very famous. and definitely there have been anti-Qing rebels and rebellious people that have formed something like a militia, right? That's also where the name Hung probably most likely comes from.
Yeah.
But there has probably not been a real Southern Shaolin temple as we getting told sometimes. But
Yeah.
and as for how old the set is, Gungji Fukfukun, I would say it's not older than 300 years.
Personally, when I started practicing, I was really, interested in, for example, what Frank mentioned. Okay, you have Hung Kuen, all right, he's a great fighter and he is good at the tiger style, and then he meets Feng Wing Chun, right, and she is really good at the crane style, and then they combine these two in a marriage, and then they create the great Hung Kuen style, and it's fascinating, absolutely.
It's a nice story.
Yeah,
but,
really. It is a nice
but if you think about the all through these years, I mean, what's probably most likely not fictional and almost can be proven is that a lot of HIP-HOP techniques, white crane techniques have been added to like the chatting part. It comes from the white crane style, HIP-HOP or HIP-GA, and that has been added by Wong Fei-Hung. So how would Fu-Hop look like without all these techniques in Fu-Hop? And then if you go further, Lam Sai Wing, there's the famous story. Lam Sai Wing, Wong Fei-Hung needed money, but Lam Sai Wing didn't have any money, so he gave him his golden watch. Then for that, Wong Fei-Hung taught Lam Sai Wing a secret technique, which is we call it for fun the golden watch technique, because that's written in the Lanzhou book, in the Lam Sai Wing memorial book. This story, so that's the technique when you turn and do the gua choi, step in 1, 2, 3, right? This is the technique that Wong Fei-Hung taught Lam Sai Wing after he gave him the golden watch. So that means that up to this point, this technique have not been in Fu-Hop. Anyway, so back to Gungji, I would say.
Yeah, but
I
think
a question.
Yeah, sure.
I have also a question, not so far in the past. Lam Sai Wing's students, Chan Hong Chung, Lam Zhou, they started Gungji in different way. For example, if you makes a first movement, then Chan Hong Chung makes so, Lam Zhou makes so. Do you know something about that? This is at the beginning, the first different.
Yeah.
By many difference.
I think at a certain point it comes down to personal preference, because then you have those who cross their hand and then they do this as well. So I think it has gotten to a point of personal preference as well as a marker to show that, okay, I am a follower of Chan Hong Chung, for example, or I am a follower of Lao Zhang, so I do it in this way, and I am a follower of Lam Zhou, so I do it in this way. Just small differences. But I talked to Frank a little bit earlier about talking to people that practice northern styles, and it's the same there. For example, in Xingyi, you have a stance that goes just like this, holding your hand out, and then you have the other one in another position, and it's the same there. If you are from one teacher, maybe your position on that specific position looks in one way, and if you follow another teacher, it might look a little bit different. So I think it comes down to personal preference at a certain point. What do you think, Frank?
Yes, exactly. maybe add on body type. For example, Lam Sai Wing was, I think, quite, as you can see on the pictures, he was quite strong, and I think he might have been taller than Lam Jo as well. Lam Jo is more smaller and not as big, so he also automatically will move differently, and maybe then we go back to preference, then it makes sense. But I think also people have their own ideas about techniques as the time goes on. I'm 100% sure that we do some techniques totally different than the original idea is of the technique, but maybe also for a reason, because just start with clothing. You know, there's the one technique called when the fist comes out of the sleeve, right? There's a special name to it. Can't remember right now, but Ho Yin Choi and you know,
shadow kick.
Yeah, but now I'm talking about the punch. When the punch comes out of the sleeve, it's called the fist comes out of the sleeve or something like that. Also, the clothes at this time, you have the white sleeves, you know, so it's just to describe something. The same with the fire arrow. It's the same technique, by the way, so just different name. And yeah, so I teach 10 people Gungji, and when they teach it, it's already different. I see, for example, Sava do something that I don't do in Gungji. It's not a bad thing. It's the same. My Sifu sees things that I do that he doesn't do. You know, so it's normal. It's a evolution.
I think that what you're talking about, Frank, now is quite important as a practitioner to know about that. All right, of course, initially in the first place, when you learn the set, of course you imitate your teacher. But then, as time goes on, and when you get more comfortable and more acquainted with the sets, you know each step very well. And then, okay, but how can I move my body? I mean, personally, I have very long legs, and I need to really use low stances all the time. So that is something that I work on just in every set, that I really need to go down in the stances. But that is just for me personally. Someone who with a little bit shorter legs than me might not have the same, focus that I do. So I think that this is important, that when you practice, you follow the teacher to a certain degree, and then you see, okay, but how can I do? How can I move so it becomes comfortable? Because, yeah.
True. That's the whole thing. You have to feel comfortable with it and convinced about yourself that you can use this technique and feel this technique, the power generation and everything. Yeah. So that's for now about Gungji history. Maybe go a little bit further with it now and start with the form, with the actual form. So as you know, the form starts standing position with the breathing part, and how you do when you do the form in parts, Viktor? Like I think we have that in 17 parts or something like that, 16 or 17 parts. And so, for example, the first part would be the standing until the salute, and then the second part would be going down and saving Ma and do this part, and then 3 and 4 is the mirrored parts, stuff like that.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on my mood. Sometimes I do the whole set just straight through. without dividing it into pieces. And sometimes, like I said before, I focus on stances quite a lot. So then I just stand in each stance, you know, just in the really beginning of the set, when you go down into Seiping Ma, and then you go to Diu Ma, and then you continue. So sometimes I only just do that part, but what I focus on then is to stand in, like, I actually have a stopwatch. So for example, 1 minute in the Seiping Ma, and then you go to Diu Ma, 1 minute, and then you go to the single leg stance, and then you do that for 1 minute, and so on. So it depends. I mean, I use different drills as well, different techniques from Gungji, just doing them over and over and over again on both sides, because that is something that I really like about Gungji as a set, that it is not just that you use, for example, let's say, I just took that example before, but if you have this technique here from Gungji, and then you have a bean choi, and then you have a ngao gok choi, as it's called, the hook, you have that on both sides. So for example, if you want to use it as an application, you want to use it as an attack, you want to have gloves on, you can use it with both sides. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can always throw that technique. So that has been a thought of mine, that you can just sort of isolate different techniques, and then you practice those techniques. How do you said that you broke it down, so
when
do you have any?
Exactly. When I teach the form, I teach it in parts. So start with first part, like, and the first part when we do it is the one in standing part, doing the Q-saw, the breathing part, and there's already a lot in it, right? I mean, it will strengthen and condition your forearms, the ligaments, and even the bones, you know, which is very important in Hung Gar, to have conditioned forearms because of the bridges. So whoever made up Gungji was very smart to you have all these little parts in Gungji, and all the parts train something specific sometimes, you know, or just let it be footwork, a certain kind of type of footwork. When you go straight with this 1, 2, 3, right? Well, what's the footwork in there? It's always like a little bit back and more forward, little bit back, more forward. So it's retreat a little, but go more, counter attack, going more forward. So it's a very important footwork, because if you go in a fight, if you step back too far, it also means you have to step forward far, you know. But if you step back only just enough not to get hit or to block, and then go back, counter attack with a bigger step, this makes more sense in a fight, right? So this is very smart to have this kind of footwork training inside the set, in a certain part in the set, within the set. The same with part 3 and 4. My opinion is, you know, when you after the guacha, then you step out, left foot, go in cut stance, pull back foot, one leg stance, kick, sit down in Seiping Ma. But it's always important where you sit, where you set down your foot, right? You can't standing on one line, so you have 2 lines, and I think this is an important lesson to know how to place your feet. Have the middle line, you know, the center line, with all the techniques.
Yeah, and I think also that if you compare, like I mentioned before, if you compare to other styles, they have basic drills or basic movements that they practice, and that is the sort of core, the credentials, like the most basic things that they need in order to be a good practitioner at, for example, Bagua or Xingyi. But Gungji is a total workout. Yeah, I mean, in itself, it's not just a few techniques that you do over and over again, but you could only practice Gungji and practice nothing else, and you would still, I mean, I haven't done this myself, but I think that you would have quite good stamina and strength and good stances and strong forearms. I mean, that is my strong belief.
Yeah, yes, it will. Yeah.
I actually have a story about that. So I don't know. I'm not sure that that all of you know the guy, but there's a guy in Munich, same name as me, Sava. Yeah, also practices Hung Kuen, and he is Baksan Kong lineage. And he at one point was obsessed with Gungji. And he had this thing where he does it in 4 directions of the world. So he does Gungji Fukuen completely, then turns 90 degrees, then does it again, then turns 90 degrees, does it again, turns 90 and does it again. So 4 times every day for a long period. And one thing that's amazing about him is he has some form of strength in his forearms and in his legs that's atypical. I haven't seen it in a lot of other people. It's just strange, and he's a really small guy actually. So that's what's interesting. And when I ask him, okay, how did you survive doing it 4 times completely? And he says, well, at first it was once, and then we have a rest, and then turn, and then again. And he did after that in the evening the rest of his training. But yeah, Gungji Fukuen definitely is a workout in itself. He's living proof, I think, of that. So interesting story, I guess.
Yeah. There's also I know about Hungar school, or let it be a group in New York, I think, or somewhere in the East Coast in America that only have Gungji Fukuen and Eta Rampo in their curriculum. Only those 2 sets. And they only practice that. And they take it apart, and it's quite interesting because I also know I have this little. It wasn't an article. There was someone wrote this in a forum many years ago, probably 20 years ago, and at that time, the Hungar was not as easy accessible as it is now, because now you could go to YouTube and you find all the sets. But in that time, you could find literally nothing online about Titzinkun. I mean, written, yes, but not video footage or anything, nothing. There was not as much as it is now. And one guy wrote a nice article about the Hungar sets, that each set could be a style by itself, you know, on its own. So it would be enough, in his opinion, to only have Gungji or Fuhok, maybe Titzinkun not so much, but either of these 2 sets to have a complete fighting system. That was also interesting, I thought.
I think you gave me that text. I think that there's also a story where there was a guy practicing Gungji Fukuen, just Gungji Fukuen, and then some other guys who did the complete system came to see him. And there was a big skill difference because the guy who only did Gungji Fukuen went more in depth on some things.
Yeah.
So in some things he had more knowledge. So I think it's definitely plausible. If you look at Gungji Fukuen, it has a whole lot of stuff in it. It has Hei Gung, it has tendon exercises, leg conditioning, fighting techniques. It's the real deal. It's the complete thing.
I have also a question. I never have seen a video from Lamzhou, and from Gungji Fukuen there are many pictures of Lam Sai Wing. What is the oldest video from a master do you know from who is practicing Gungji Fukuen? Do you know something?
I think the oldest video existing might be, but it's not complete, but partly Mok Wai Lan from the Wong Fei movies, where she shows a little bit of Gungji. That might be the oldest footage, because I remember there's some footage when she plays, and but then you have to know that this, how she plays it, didn't go through Lam Sai Wing. That must have been directly from Wong Fei Hung, or at least the students. But I'm not sure if I think she learned her Hungar from Wong Fei Hung, obviously, and so it's a little different than we do, because I think Lam Sai Wing, after learning Gungji from Wong Fei Hung, probably further developed the set. But what's your take on this? Other than that, I don't remember. Maybe from the 70s, some videos, Super 8 videos or something, 8mm.
But I think as well that Gungji is I mean, when I'm just thinking about old footage that I've seen, it feels like Gungji might not be the set that you want to display if you want to show how impressive the style is, because if you think about it, Fu-Hop has, you know, it has the tigers, it has the crane techniques, it has a lot of more movement. So that is why I think that Fu-Hop has been a better sort of representative for the style, even though Gungji is sort of the base.
What we know is that there is, but we have not yet discovered it. There is definitely the complete Fu-Hop Hung Kuen, the tiger and crane set, was demonstrated by Lao Jam in one of the old Wong Fei Hung movies in 1954. So actually, you can say all the oldest footage, video footage, visual footage, is probably most likely can be found in those old Wong Fei Hung movies, because they always invited real Hungar practitioners to participate in those kind of movies and show the form. So even you see Chan Hong Chung in those old movies, Lao Jam, and then also in one of the movies supposed to be Lam Zhou as well. So that's about the oldest footage that can be seen.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, Frank, that the oldest footage is those old films, because they were made in the 50s and also earlier, some of them. I don't know when the earliest was filmed.
One of the first was 1949.
Yeah.
But having said that, you know, when I lived in the Philippines for 3 years, I became friends with with a lot of masters there. And one style which is very present in the Philippines is the Hung Kuen Wu Chu Chuan, the five ancestor fist. And there are two old schools. One was founded 1936. The other school was founded 1937. That's a Gonghan Athletic Club, and the other one is Beng Kiam. Both of these schools or associations practice the five ancestor fist, and both of them have footage from the 30s and a little bit, I think, from the 40s or something. But they have really old video footage filmed with, I don't know with what they filmed it with, like 8mm or whatever. But they have actually, and it's interesting to see. And what we don't know is, we don't know if everything has been discovered, or some people sitting on some stuff and don't want to show it. There might be some old video footage that we don't know about, we have never seen, because I know a lot of people filmed stuff, like what Yip Man before he died did, or I know my Sigong or our Sigong, there is there is this guy in Hong Kong. His name is Ma Kok-Fu. You know him, Ma Kok-Fu. You know him, right, Victor?
I have seen of him, but I don't know him that.
Yeah.
I haven't.
I met him personally, and I was in his house with a friend, and he had videos of our Qigong doing all the forms. All filmed at the same spot, somewhere, maybe in the mountains or somewhere. I saw it by accident because he was searching something, and he had like a hard drive or something, and there was all Qigong showing sets. Yes.
Well, that's impressive. I didn't know this, but that is also a thing to keep in mind, Andreas, when we're talking about old footage, and also Frank, you mentioned it as well, that there might be people who are sitting on a lot of information that they just don't want to share with people, because they think that it's so precious that they don't want anyone else to see. It's like their own treasure, like Smeagol in Lord of the Rings, my precious. So that is also a thing to keep in mind. But yeah, it's always cool to see those really old films.
that was great Qigong. I'm not sure how old he was at that time, but I think he was already 60 plus.
Sifu, I like one thing to this video very much.
Yeah.
The thing is, I like that the Sifu has dressed just like normal. He don't dress some special traditional kung fu dress or something like that. It looks like somebody come to him and ask it, "Hey Sifu, can you show us Gujing, yeah?
Gungji.
Gungji, yeah, Gungji." And he show it, he do it like that, you know. And this I like, Gungji, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but that's what he always did. You could see him really rarely that he wear a uniform. He always actually sometimes really stylish. You know, I remember when he performed 8 diagram pole, and he wears some real funky 70s kind of or 80s style clothes, and it was really cool. You know, yeah. So because I have a lot of these. This video is a little part from a Lamzhou birthday celebration, which was held every year, where all the Lam family masters came together and would perform. This has been going on for years, for I think for 25 years or something. And I have all these videos from, not all, but most of them. And my Qigong or Qigong always was there performing, and he never actually wore a uniform, right?
Yeah, I don't think I have ever seen him. I mean, there are some photo. I think one photo where he is wearing the Lam family, you know, the whole set, the shirt and the pants and everything.
Yes,
Usually,
yes.
it's very. He always performed in very casual clothing.
Yes. Yes, I think I've seen him 1 or 2 times actually wearing a uniform, but not the Lam family uniform, just like a no name. There was no name or nothing on it. Like just like one time when he performed Sap Ying Kuen in Kowloon Corner in Kung Fu Park. Kowloon Park Kung Fu Corner. I mean, yeah, which was very impressive, by the way, the performance when he did Sap Ying Kuen there. I always thought about Qigong that when he performs a set, that you very clearly can see the application, which is hard to see sometimes. But he could, even when he does the tiger fork, you can see the applications really clearly. You know, so there was something about him that he could move in a way and make it very clearly what's the meaning behind the movement. You know, and I try to do it that way too, and also teach it that way, you know. So it's not all performance.
This video is very interesting because it's an old one, and this is longer than when he performed it in the later times. Gungji, there is a part in it which is the Wiederholung, and in videos later, this part is pulled out, and here in this one you see the whole Gungji part.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, because when you, I talked to Frank about this as well a little bit earlier, but when you turn around, you have had your 4 elbow strikes, and then you turn around, and then, you know, in the book, in the Lam Sai Wing book, the way he did it and the way I think that Chang Hung Jung, those students of his, that they still do it that way. But when they turn around, they still do 3 extensions like that. But this is something that Lamzhou took away, and Lam Sai Wing became very angry with him. They had a fallout, so to say, falling out. And then if you see in this book, the Taming the Tiger book here, I mean the original one, Lam Zhou is not mentioned once, he's not in it. However, 2 other students of his were in it, and that is kind of interesting that this was such a big part that Lam Zhou took away some movements from Lam Se-wing's set that he taught. So they had like a really, you know, bad relationship after that. So I think it shows how serious Lam Se-wing was about martial arts.
Yes.
He did not kid around. He was not playing.
So he's probably happy that we put it back in. Yeah. I think it's more or less about why this was taken out for reasons of performance, because it would be too long or maybe too boring for the people to see this repetition. Maybe that one of the reasons. Because other than that, it's only good, you know, because it's more, it's harder to do, you know. So that's why that's why I think I can understand why it was taken out, but I find it important to have it in there.
Yeah, and that is one of the changes that we have today, and also the way that I do, like when you come further down in the set, and when it's the part of the Fukfu set, you have a let's see now. So from the Chao Da, you have a Bin Choi and a Ping Choi, and then you turn to the left, and then you do a side fist and then a straight fist, and then you turn straight, facing straight, and a side fist and a straight punch. But this was not always the case, because in the book, Lam Se-wing does it as a back fist first, and then a straight punch, and a back fist and a straight punch, back fist, straight punch,
yes.
and so on.
And also, I think also he does it in one move. He's not like 1, 2, but it will be like.
Yeah, exactly. And also, it says in the book that this was, I mean, this had been changed even further. I mean, the original way was that you did it in one line, right? So 1, 2, 3, and then you would turn around. So just going straight instead of doing it in like that, you could say like a triangular.
Yeah, 3 directions. Oh, I didn't know that the original version was doing it 3 times straight. That I didn't know myself. Because we do it that way, right? We punch strike at the same time. I mean the Hua Choi punch, we do it, but we do it still in 3 directions, which is good, I think. But I didn't know that it originally was like in 1 line. I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that this set has, I mean, it has evolved a lot, and I think it will continue to evolve as well over the coming years. Hopefully, you know, more people will practice, and we will continue to practice. So maybe it will change further in the future. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about forms is they need to evolve, because when these forms was created, people were fighting also differently, and a lot of these techniques, maybe also when these techniques were created, people were actually fighting for their life, where well now you will come into a scuffle. It's not necessarily about life or death, you know. So some of the techniques which would be maybe lethal, you can't be using that way anymore. Like for example, in after this one, right? This one originally the thumb goes in the eyes, but now you will just push the person away. You don't want to take his eyes out, right? So for example, I mean, that's what I mean with the difference. But some of the techniques maybe are outdated or not really usable anymore, unless unless you come in a certain situation, which is probably rare to happen.
Viktor, you said that 3 techniques goes straight on. Do you do for yourself? You are training in straight on, or you divide it in 3 parts in 3 directions?
I
do
do
you
the
train
3 directions. I do the
Pardon?
3 directions.
You you make 3 directions, okay.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, I have tried doing it on one line, and then I realized, well, okay, you can do it this way as well. All right. Yeah, I think that the 3 directions is quite a good, you know, yeah, it gives a good. You have some stance work, and you have some angles in there as well. So I think it's quite good. And when you think about it, the stepping, so from the chao da, so you put that one back, you punch, and then the way that you're standing, you just need to sort of switch your torso more or less, and also the focus to the right side. And then you have the whole momentum, the power from that as well, which would be a little bit difficult to, you know, get the quacha and the power to continue forward. Of course, you can do that, but I mean, personally, I think that it saves some effort, because you're already in a stance where you could use a lot of force in that direction.
But yeah, what we still do the old version of Nam Sai Ring, Hua Choi, Ping Choi in one. We actually also have a little drill. It contains 12 techniques, or let's say 11 techniques, and the 12th technique is more like a finishing where we go always in both directions. And all these techniques are taken from Gungji or Fu-Hop. You know, and then we would practice them in like very traditional way, and then also out of a fighting stance, and then with partners and drills on mats and mitts and pads and whatever, you know. Yeah. And then we have picked like the most common techniques I picked, and yeah, it's good.
I think that's an important way to practice, because if we take away the application aspect of what we do, then and the sparring element as well, then what is left? Well, then it's steps and beautiful hand movements, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's very good to put on gloves sometimes, and also try out the techniques and see how you can use them.
Yeah. So, and for those who learn Gungji, you can maybe also notice the difference between Gungji and Fufu-Kun, because for me it's very clearly, this is for me also a little, but maybe it was on purpose, but for me it feels like that Fufu-Kun is a whole set, but Gungji is for me like, it feels like drills put together to a set, to be a set, you know, because you could easily, especially in Gungji, you could easily make many parts, like the greeting part, the Saving Ma part, the Black Tiger part, you know, then the straight part with the footwork, then the 4 elbows. These are all, you can also just take these parts out and make it drills, just drill it. Makes a lot of sense, and it trains a lot of attributes for the Hungar style especially. And so this is very smart. And then the Fufu part is very fast, you know. I mean, if you play it really correctly, the whole set takes 5 minutes. But if you only play Fufu-Kun, it takes probably 1 minute and 10 seconds or something, you know. So because it's fast and has a better, it's more agile from the movements and footwork. while the Gungji part is very very straight and very organized.
Sifu, I have a question about Gungji.
Yeah.
So this style of Gungji, yeah, the technique, has a story, an old story, how it becomes.
Yeah. That we already that you can see when you watch the video later. Because
Talking about it, yeah. Okay, no problem.
now we was talking about it already. Like we started, we're talking about the history and
Okay.
about the.
Okay, no problem.
So I mean, for the sake of everybody, just keep rolling.
Okay.
Then
Okay,
later you can watch it. So any question? No?
Then I have a question for you guys. I mean, I know that BoFaat did not learn the set yet, but I mean, which is your favorite part of Gungji, if you were to be completely honest to yourselves? I mean, yeah, Martina, what do you think? Which is your favorite part?
In Gungji, Gungji Fukfuken, there is a part at the end when you make a snap here, and this part is the starting of Joga Kung Fu. Joga Kung Fu makes always pushing this here. It started in 1920, about 1920. It put from Fukfuken, the last part, when we make here, and this here. And I was also training this for 20 years, so it's my favorite part.
Yeah, in Fukfuken at the end, it's the first big jump, right? Pressing elbow, and then you curl around the arm and grab the elbow.
Genau, that's right. This is where in my first 20 years of making Kung Fu, the most important technique.
Yes, I saw this a lot with Ali old student, or when Ali old, I always saw this grabbing part.
Ali old is my older brother. He is 3 years older than me in Kung Fu.
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting what you said, Andreas. That I mean, these styles they are all related. So there's so many things that are similar and have the same sort of origin, and they have been inspired by each other. Just like Frank mentioned with Hapga King, you have Choi Fat, you have Joga, and many more, Hong Foot Pai, and so on. That have a same. Comes from the same root, you could say, and then it has evolved in different ways. But Joga and our Hung guys is very close.
So, any more takers? What's your favorite part of Gungji?
Yes, Sava, what do you think?
Well, actually, out of all the hand sets that I've learned, I think Gungji Fukfuken is my all-time favorite. It's the set that I'm most emotionally attached to. So it's kind of hard to pick what I like, but some of the stuff that recently has started coming out when we are sparring or drilling is the Big Jan in some form. So the pressing elbow sometimes comes out real nice. So I like that part. So after finishing the first column and then you turn, that's the part I like. But for me, I think the best part of Gungji is just the beginning, the base of the eye. Just that's beautiful. It contains so much stuff, so much information. And I like the way it was constructed, because if you look just at the part after the Fujao, and then when you go Chum and then Biu, after that part, you can only, for example, take just what one hand does, and you get a whole lot of material to work with. So that's the beauty of Gungji. I think it's a huge collection of stuff that you can play around with for years and years and years and never be actually done with it. So Martina's microphone doesn't work, but she told me that her favorite part is the lifting elbow. So after finishing the first column, again, when you go to Shaping Mind, then the lifting elbow, and she likes that part because she almost busted my elbow one time with it. So it's I think I now have witnesses that there is violence in the marriage. I think I'm going to get a good lawyer and take her money. That's the plan.
Penny,
So-
what's your favorite technique?
Well, I would agree with Martina. I also say I love those lifting elbows because it's my first contact with breaking elbows, so like this. And at first, I didn't have any. I couldn't imagine how the movement works. So I was just like lifting my arms, lifting my elbows. Was somehow it will work. Later on, with more training, I somehow could imagine how I can break an elbow, break an arm with this technique. So, well, I think that's my most favorite part of Kung-Fu.
Yeah, interesting, interesting.
I think my favorite part would be the beginning of Fuku. So the switch from, Gunji, it's like going from side to side, forwards, backwards only. And then you turn around and do like those punches, those fighting techniques, and a lot of movement, diagonal movement with wounded, And I think that's my favorite part also because I've practiced only Fukun a lot, and that's the beginning of Fukun. So there's a lot of emotional attachment to it, I think.
Okay, great. Carlitos.
Well, I was thinking about which part, but I cannot really say which part is my favorite. Maybe the footwork in the beginning between the breathing part and the tigers. I think that's maybe my favorite part.
Okay.
If I have to pick one, then it's that one. But I don't know why. I cannot tell why.
I wanted to say something about
Yeah.
my favorite part,
Yeah.
and that is one of the first parts we learn in Gunji. And just to tell some people, I came from dancing background. So, well, in dancing, of course, we do a lot of holds when you need to keep your arms up all the time. And of course, you are taught to do that with as much energy as you can. And that kind of, I kind of connected that with the beginning of the Gunji when we have the first 3 extensions. And that's the part I really like because it teaches you the conservation of energy, how you can hold your arms and they can be pretty strong with as little effort as you can. And I really like that approach to it. And it really has all the ingredients I got while dancing. And of course, when they teach you how to dance, it's all about that. It's, well, I try to explain to some people, it's like doing, what are the tendon exercises, bone and tendon, like doing, oh, my brain froze, but never mind. So it's about that. It's teaching you how you can do more with less, how you can be strong and powerful with as less effort as you can. And that's the part I really enjoy every time I do it. I think about that and I just try to complement the knowledge I already had that I came with here. So that's what I wanted to share here.
That's great. That's great. So you talk about the
yes,
dynamic tension.
Those 3 extensions, yes, that go to the side, because everything needs to be tucked in. Everything's there. Everything's strong, flexible, and if you do it properly, you can hold your arms like this for hours. A beginner couldn't do that because they don't know what muscles to use, how to efficiently contract their body. But I'm pretty sure I can do it for the rest of the podcast, but I don't want to try that. But yes.
Boogie.
Oh, I would say probably would be the fuku part, definitely. Elbows are fine. I also like those stuff like Martina. But the thing is about I like about fuku, well, similarly also to full hawk, is that gives you maybe more flexibility, more movement, because basically based on my body, and I like to move a lot, and I usually don't have the weight and the strength comparing to other trainees and other participants and other people, and because of that I tend to use a bit of an offset, bit of like to avoid the full power, contesting the power between me and the opponent. So basically that's why I like using maybe fuku more than the first part, the gunji part. And that's because I also feel comfortable more also using the full hawk sets. So that most of the stuff there, and the elbows are really good because like you kind of have those like go on the side and offset. This I think that's really that is really good for me.
Yes, great. It's great. Makes sense. Viktor, what's yours?
My favorite for the moment is actually the kick in the fuku part, and what is coming before and after. So you know, taking this one, opening up, and then you have palm strike, and then you grab, and then you step, and then you kick, and then you come back, and then it's the eyes, and I really like that part. Yeah, as I said, long legs, so want to use them.
Well,
Daniela, what do you think?
Who?
Daniela?
I'm here. I like the part just before elbows, where you use cross and then uppercut. It gives different angle attack from side and below.
That's a great technique too.
And elbows.
No need.
My kid. My kid.
Yeah.
It's great. So many that really likes the elbows. I'm actually quite astonished, surprised. So Frank, which is your favorite part, if you have one?
First of all, Gunji is also my one of my favorite sets, hand sets. But my technique, because I think my favorite technique, because it's also very practical, is the Samting Choi. 1, 2, 3. Because it's very easy to apply, whether you are being the attacker or you defend yourself. So it's very practical, this technique, and I like the flow. Because you only need to cover, just raise one if someone want to punch you or strike you or grab you, you just need to raise your arm and you have the bridge, and then you start to control, and it's very easy. I like this technique, but I also like the other technique which Daniela mentioned, the one with the Bing Choi, Ngao Gok Choi, Chung Choi. Is a very good combination that you can use in combat. Very good.
So who hasn't been speaking now? Vlad, what do you think?
Vlad maybe fell asleep already.
Maybe it's getting late.
But he's now, he learned 5 or 6 parts of Gungji. Same with Enes. Enes, what's your favorite part out of the 6, or technique from the 6 parts that you have learned?
I think from the 6th part, like the last part that I've learned, when you go to the left and right, your arms like one like over your head and the other one comes from the bottom. Yeah.
Ah, you mean the chinties out?
No,
this one?
like the
from the bottom?
The left arm goes up.
But you mean
and
this
the
one,
right
right?
arm under it.
Ah, this one. This?
No, not really what.
We don't know also. Is that what you just recently learned from Danny?
Yes.
So that's from the part with the footwork back and forth, you know, after the black tiger, it's taking the horse to the stable, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Some of these techniques.
Yes.
Okay.
We are leaving now. It's 9:45, and we say a nice evening to all, and see you later by the next Zoom conference. And I hope next time we have have another project like Fukfukun or something like that, stick or something of that. We can make. Wir können es immer wieder weitermachen. So. Okay.
Monday, yes.
Okay. We say bye.
Bye.
Okay, ciao.
Bye, bye, bye.
Ciao, my friend.
Yeah.
So there was something we mentioned last time when we talked about sets in our last Zoom meeting. We kind of talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but we mentioned practicing how many times a week, what do people practice, how much do you practice, and so forth. And I know it's a very big topic, but I usually tell my guys what my Sifu told me when I finished Gungji, and that's for the first 6 months, try to practice it at least once a day in order to kind of settle it down and kind of get a good foundation. So I think for me, if you ask me what set do I like to practice the most, that would be Gungji, definitely. And I don't know about the rest of you, but it would be interesting to me to hear how many times a week, a month do you practice Gungji? Do you devote it a lot of time, very little time? Do you practice the whole set regularly or just small parts and then occasionally just the whole set? So what is your approach to it? Big question.
That is a big question. For me, I like to change things up a bit, and also I want to remember all the sets that I've learned. So, but I often come back to Gungji because of the basics of it all. That if you have a good understanding of Gungji, like we have mentioned earlier tonight, then you will learn other sets a lot easier as well. So I come back to it every now and then. But maybe I go through the set, once a week definitely, but not every day as it is at the moment. Since I have a little baby at home. I just have been a father for 1 year, so I need to wait for him to fall asleep, and then I can go out and practice.
I feel your pain.
Also important to that you have access to a place where you can practice, let's say, because in our school it's not every day open, and so to practice it every day also takes, or at least you gotta have some space where you could practice it by yourself, right? I mean, it's always outside. There's no excuse if you want to put it like that, but you could always find a place outside somewhere where you could practice the set every day. But I mean, now it's not always that easy. So for me, it's because if I teach the set, I'm always in contact with the set, right? When you teach, you always have to think about it. You always have to. So that's if I forget once, if I not forget one set, it's definitely Gung Fu or the main sets. I don't think I will ever forget them anymore. So, but yeah, when you learn it new, when you're fresh with Gung, you should practice it as much as possible. A lot of times. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And what Viktor said, I think I always said it in training to the people that start to learn Gung, and when they see the others doing the whole set and they're like, oh my God, how is that possible to learn or memorize all these movements? You know, that's so much, you know, especially when people come the first or second time and then they see the others do the form, the set, and the look in their eyes like, oh my God, I'm standing in front of a high mountain. But that's what Viktor also said, and I always say that too. When you got Gung down, you can learn any other set easy. It's not hard anymore. Yeah, especially when you have the basics down, right? And Gung will give you all the basics. So after that, it's just all about your memory. How good you memorize and understand, obviously. Yeah.
Sifu, how long you needed to learn Gung perfectly? Or all of you? All of you. I want to hear the difference. Maybe from people to people, person to person.
I don't feel I'm perfectly. So
Yeah,
perfectly
it's forever.
Let's
very hard to say.
But how long you need to learn it? All of the line.
I mean, it's depend. It's. I don't think you can put that.
Say.
You can put that in a number or something, like, because everyone is different. I mean, I saw people. I saw people that learned Gung the whole set in a few days. But to what you're asking, to really feel comfortable with the set, feel you know that you can play it from beginning to end and also understand what you are doing. I will say it also depends on how much you train it, but minimum 1 year, I would say.
Okay, 1 year. Okay. I told you my question was for all of you, yeah, not just you. I know everybody are different, yeah. Every person is different. Every brain is different. Some they understand it very quickly. The other ones, maybe me, I need 2 years. I don't know. They're everybody different. I know this. For this, I ask in all of you. So
yeah,
to you was. You can't say it's perfect. I know it's. I understand this everything. Okay, thank you.
I can say that after at least 6 months of everyday practice, you finally start to see some benefits. It has to pass. There's an amount of time it really has to pass before everything becomes more natural. But of course, it's an everyday process. It's something you do every day and improve upon. So for me, every day I discover something new. Learning a new set influences the previous one I learned. It brings a new dimension to it just from that. And learning a new weapon changes my Gung every time. So I think that all we do here complements each other. Maybe I'm taking your question a bit further away, but the more, well, of course, there's always a certain dose of variety we need in order to make things more interesting for ourselves. And that making things interesting improves us and pushes our art forward, and of course improves our Gungji at least. And yes, that's all I wanted to have. That's all I wanted to say here. And if someone wants to continue, they are welcome.
Well,
it's also big different if someone learns every day or two times in a week or something like this. Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, basically, I would kind of agree with Ika. 6 months was something that maybe I get a hang of all parts of the set. But to be honest, I think I felt, let's say, comfortable with the set maybe after 2 or 3 years, actually. Now now it's fine, but still practice, I still see that I need some improvements. I still see that I need to practice some parts more. But yeah, definitely after 2 or 3 years, I would say that I felt comfortable with the set. Of course, not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but definitely around that years.
Yeah, when Frank asked me if I would join you guys tonight, and then I started to thinking, because Frank told me that the topic is going to be Gungji, and I was like, okay. Well, then I started to think about when I learned it and how long it took, and how my sort of reactions, but I couldn't remember when I first started to learn it. Unfortunately, it's skipped my mind, but it has been, okay, I'm going to make a reference to a sculptor. The sculptor starts with a piece of clay and then takes off a little bit, takes off a little bit, takes off a little bit, and it feels like that with Gungji for me, that throughout the years it's been refinements done by the years of practicing it, and also seeing other people and talking to Sifu and so on. So it has been a journey of improvements, I would say. It's not that I remember, okay, the first time it was in 2003, the weather was nice, and if that, I don't remember. I just know that it's been refined throughout the years, in my case.
Point is, I was obsessed with Gungji when I started, and I came like this close to waking up Sava in the middle of the night to ask him what comes next. So yeah, Gungji is definitely my favorite set. And hello, this is my new hairdo.
Nice.
Thank you. So this is what I wanted to add. I was obsessed with it, and I did it every day. And before I had Luca, yeah, then it was my daily routine. But now, guys know Luca is really a handful. So I didn't have much time to practice, but hopefully he will grow up, and I will go back to training. That's it. That's me. Back to Sava.
So just to add my personal comment. So I think I learned the choreography for Gungji Fukuken really fast, thanks to my Sifu, and thanks to the fact that we worked like the whole day, well, 5 or 6 or 7 days. So I got the choreography really quickly, but then the depth, what's what, how to use what, the details, that takes a long time. And in the end, I think that it's who wants to work on it, how much. So who's working, how much is he working, and what is he working towards? People just like the aesthetics, it's pleasing to them, to the eye. Some people really are looking for the fighting applications in it. Some are looking more at the health part, so it's quite different for everyone.
Yeah.
For me, for example, I practice, then suddenly a video pops up on YouTube of my Dai Sigong or Sigong or Sifu or my Kung Fu uncles, and I take a look and I go, I didn't see that detail that way, and it changes my perspective, and then I look at it differently, and that looking at it differently also helps me understand more of what Gungji is to me, as far as some movements go or some ways of looking at it. So that's I think a wonderful part, that most big sets are self-developing sets, which is really beautiful. So, and how much does it take to really understand it? A couple of lifetimes. How much does it take to learn it? Depends on the person. Choreography can be learned quickly. Details must be absorbed slowly.
Also, it will take a time what Gungji does to you, you know, with your body, with everything. You know, this can't be done in a week or in a month. It's how much or how many times you practice it to really catch the attributes or the get that Hunga body, that Hunga movement, you know, down. This can't be done in a quick time. It's impossible. It has to grow on you and with you, I think. Justin, how was it when you learned Gungji? You remember?
I was pretty young, so I think it was a bit overwhelming how much movements there were. Surely I had a hard time remembering, and yeah, I think even until now I still haven't figured out all of the applications, all of the details yet. So yeah, like everyone said, it's gonna take a long time to understand.
How old what you were when you learned it?
Maybe like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I'd like to add something. So at the beginning, it was quite frustrating because we had Valentin teach us the beginning of Gungji, and he is quite a teacher. He likes to criticize very much, and it's a bit, yeah, like I said, frustrating if you get criticized so much in a set which is supposed to be the base of whole Hunga. And yeah, so it was hard at the beginning, but yeah, right now, of course, I like it.
How old did you learn it together with Justin, or was it earlier? Together, right? Two of you. Okay.
Well, guys, sorry to interrupt, but I need to be going right about now. Thank you guys for thanks for letting me be here and talk to you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining, bro. Talk to you soon.
All right. Yeah. Talk to you soon, guys.
Bye-bye.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for the answers.
Yeah. So any other question about Hunga, the Gungji form? So maybe we can actually, maybe already 2 hours. Is there anything that we have left out or not talked about when it comes to the Gungji set? No.
I think we could talk about Gungji for like 20 hours. Still wouldn't say everything.
We could start and talk through movements, to every movement, you know, I know that. But I think let's do not
overdo it. Yeah, I agree. So I just wanted to say that I'm really glad that we gathered again. So it's a good thing, I think. So really nice to see you all.
Yeah, great. Even just to read the names.
Some of us are shy.
Don't be shy.
Don't be
Everyone knows. Everyone knows. You learn Hung Kuen in Pancevo. That means you're not shy. Pancevo
True.
people are not shy.
True.
So, guys, I will have to start going. I'm getting up 6 a.m. to work in the ICU. So hopefully, again, in 2 or 3 weeks, we see each other. Thank you, Sifu, for organizing this. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah, it was
Stay
a pleasure.
safe, and see you soon.
It's been a pleasure seeing you all guys here.
Bye.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
So I'm gonna stop the recording. Recording.